How do you feel when you watch this?
You know, I think I'm more numb when I look at this stuff. It's like surreal to me. I mean, look how angry I look.
You'd admit this is a bad look.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know how dumb I feel when I look at this picture? Like, oh my goodness.
Rachel Powell, also known as the Pink Hat Lady, is about to begin a 5-year prison sentence for her role in the January 6 attack on the US Capitol. She's a mom of 8 and grandmother of 6, and she's spent most of the last 3 years under home detention in rural Pennsylvania.
Is this what you expected from an insurrectionist, a terrorist? How'd I have time to plan an insurrection when my life is busy like this? Making pie, raising babies.
Why did you decide to go to DC on January 6th?
Well, how often does a president ask you to come to a rally? Doesn't happen.
At some point, this goes from peaceful protest to you having an ice axe in your hand, breaking a window, trying to get into the Capitol. How did that happen?
It got violent, and it was violent for a while, and I'm completely in pain. And
because you had been hit?
Oh man, I had been hit with a baton, I'd been grabbed and thrown, I'd been sprayed. I mean, my whole body was on fire. I don't think there was rational thinking in my head at that point. I didn't have an ice axe that passed through the crowd. Somebody put it in my hands, and it was only in my hands long enough to take out that window pane, and yet I've been charged with a deadly weapon.
Somebody give you the ice axe?
Yeah.
Who?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I don't know who they were. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it went.
I grew up, and I guess you probably did too, of being told, you know, if a police officer tells you to do something, you should probably do it. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen that day, of course. The police were telling you guys to go away.
They never actually told us to go away. I never had an officer look at me and say, you need to leave or I'm going to arrest you.
Footage like this of Rachel, seen here in the fur-hooded coat, pushing against a police line, and messages she posted on social media condoning violence ahead of January 6th were used by prosecutors to argue that Rachel wasn't just a peaceful protester who got caught up in the chaos of the day.
Do you regret that day?
I have a lot of remorse for ruining my family's life. I mean, in one day, I destroyed everything. For nothing. I don't have remorse for attending protests. I don't have remorse for speaking out and saying that I believe that the election is stolen. I do have remorse for breaking a window and destroying my whole family's life, and for thinking irrationally and not realizing, like, why don't you just sit down at this protest?
A federal judge convicted Rachel on 9 counts, including destruction of government property, obstruction of an official proceeding, and engaging in physical violence in a restricted building or grounds.
I'm sorry, it's like my last weekend before I go in. But, like, I love my children so much, and so it's like the last thing that they can take from me. That'll be the hard part. And I don't deserve this, and my kids don't deserve it. Like, have we not been through enough? Like, that's the last thing that we have to lose is each other.
Prosecutors said Rachel showed nothing but contempt for the court and legal system.
You said, you know, that you feel dumb, set up.
Yep.
Duped.
Yeah.
Why do you feel duped?
With January 6th, I cannot prove it was a setup, but I feel like, what if it was?
Rachel isn't alone. A quarter of Americans believe the conspiracy theory the January 6th attack was instigated by the FBI.
People watching this might say, well, you were duped by Trump and everybody around him, and the election wasn't really stolen, and you buying into this has kind of ruined your life. Do you ever feel a bit pissed off with Trump?
No, absolutely not. I don't. I've had problems with this election process for years and years. 15 years ago, if there would have been protests about election fraud, I would have gone to those, because our whole country and everything about our lives is determined by voting.
Surely, in the last 3 years, being locked in here, Have you ever had a moment where you're like, you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Biden actually won the election. Maybe I'm the conspiracy theorist.
No, not at all.
She's due to spend the next few years behind bars, but she believes one man could change that.
So this hat says, Rachel, we love you. Trump. Three of my sons, they met Trump, and you can actually see them one of the times here. Trump was very encouraging to them. He's made it clear he's going to pardon us.
There's a lot riding on this election.
Totally.
For the country, but also personally for you.
Oh man, for me it's huge. For me it's like life or death. It's huge.
If Trump wins, you could get out of prison.
Correct, I will get out of prison.